So the first step to make your own moccasin kit is to stitch the sole of the shoe. So for that you will need 2 meters of thread. I have my own measurement from tip to shoulder. You take 2 meters, cut in an angle your thread. You'll find easier to thread the needles, and you will put a needle in each end of the thread. Takes a bit of practice, and if you find that it's not going through, you can cut a nice angle and it would go very easy. So the technique we're going to use to stitch this is called saddle stitching. It's the strongest technique, and it requires 2 needles, and traditionally it's used with your knees. You clamp the project on your knees, and then you start your first stitch anywhere in the project. I start always on the inner side of the shoe, and you take half and half. I have this device, in Spanish it's called pony, and you can clamp your project like this, and it's easier to work if you are doing it a lot. And you can also sit and use it in this way, yeah. Otherwise the knees works as fine. So the first tip is to repeat the same pattern the whole time. So what I do is to go from the right to the left, going 1 point forward, and then from the left to the right while I hold the stitch upwards. You see how it goes? And then pull. Then the same thing happens. If you wanna faster, you can put 2 needles at the same time and pull in opposite directions, but always try to repeat the same pattern. It's a very good training for patience. Hand stitching is very slow, and the good thing is that you don't need any machine. And saddle stitching is famous for doing all the heavy duty stitching. For example, in shoemaking, the traditional Goodyear welting is done with this technique. This allows you to make something that will last forever if it's looked after. So let's see some of the details here. So as we were doing right first So in this case, if you're doing with 2 needles at the same time, I put the right on top of the left needle, and then you push the opposite directions. Okay. So if you do one at a time, you go right first, pull upwards, and then left, change hand, and then pull. If you're doing 2 at the same time, you go like this and then pull. Okay. So here we are almost in the end of the long journey. And funny thing is that shoes are always in pairs. So once you finish one, you need to start the next one.
Sorry.
So when you reach to this stage, you will go here. So do 2 more stitches. And the last one here, you see? And now you will do a couple more stitches to overlap, going on top of the previous. Can be a bit harder because there's already the thickness of the thread. And on the second one, you will go in the hole, but get out in between the 2 layers, like here. And the same from this side, you move on here, and then you do a square knot here, square knot. So it's a double knot, one in one direction and the other one in the other. Okay, so here you will cut about 1/4 of an inch, and then burn the knots like that. Yeah, if you have a hammer, shoemaking, we use a anvil like this, and then we can tap gently over the stitches, like that. And it will look like this. If you don't have an anvil, you can use on top of the table like this. It's a gentle tap, okay? It's not using strength, but just the weight of the hammer. So now we're gonna stitch the heels with the same technique, the saddle stitching. And we're gonna put the heels like this. We can use or legs or pony. In my case, I'm gonna use the pony, so it makes it easier to show you what I'm doing. We're gonna cut a length of 50 centimeters, and for that we have this table here, and as well on an angle we make it easier for the threads to go through the needle. And if it doesn't want to go, just cut on an angle, and that should be easy. So we're going to start from the bottom of the heel, and again start from the right towards the left, and then saddle stitch this way. Yeah, pull. You don't need to pull strong to cut the leather and harm your fingers, but enough so it stands, and it's good practice to keep a constant tension while stitching. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, detail. A few more stitches and we will finish the heels. So when you get to the final hole, make the saddle stitch there, and then you're gonna go back 1 point, as we did with the soles, like this, and then one more, and you're gonna go in between the leather, two leathers like this. Yeah, and then a square knot, 1/2 knot in one direction and a 1/2 knot in the other direction, and then you make 5mm cut and nice so. Again, you can use an anvil if you have one, or even a bottle to shape your heel like this, so you can flatten those edges in this way, so your heel will be comfy. If you have an anvil, you can tap it in this way. Okay, and this is how it should be looking. Okay, so now we're going to stitch the upper, the flap here, and for that we need 2 meters of thread for each one, so more or less this much, and we are gonna do, so there's 2 options. This one we were using in the previous model is the whip stitch. So this particular stitch is the traditional used in moccasins, and is 1 needle that goes 1 time in each hole in this way. So it goes creating sort of this whip stitch. It's very easy to make and very quick, but today we're gonna do a different version, and we're gonna use a saddle stitch for these moccasins. You're welcome to use any stitching techniques. This is your project. This is just one guidance. The advantage of using the saddle stitch is that it will make a very even stitch. So to start with, let's put it here again so we have more light. So to start with, we're gonna align the first hole. I start always on the left side of the shoe, and we're gonna make away from you a first stitch and divide it in 2 like this. Okay, now with the one you went through, you go back again, and that makes the first stitch, which is like a whip, and this is to lock the first stitch, and it would look like this. Okay, you have to tight, strong. So then you go and do a saddle stitch, and as you can see, the stitches on the flap are closer together, and the ones in the bottom part are wider apart. That means that the the bottom part will go like this and the front will go like this. Yeah, that creates the curve. And this is important. You need to be able to tie and make sure you are in half and half, and you can pull until you have both sides even. And now we proceed with the saddle stitch. Make sure you put enough tension on your stitches so it has a nice and even shape. Yeah, it should be looking sort of like this. The next one here and here. Sometimes it's easier just to pass one and go on the next. There you go. You can use pliers if the needle struggles to go through, or if you don't have the practice of pulling with your bare hands. Sometimes getting the hole is the trickiest bit. You can use pliers, for example, and hole, and then okay. So we're gonna continue with the saddle stitching. Okay, so now we are in the final part. It's looking like this, as you see, all the saddle stitch. And for the final ones, it should go quicker because the thread is shorter. Keep always a nice tension. Go. almost there. Okay, so when you reach here, on the very last, you do as normal, saddle stitch. Okay. Apply tension, and what you do is make with one of them, like you did on the beginning, go on the same hole, doing a whip to the outside, and apply tension. Now go back one stitch, doing the saddle stitch, yeah, that will lock the stitch, and then go in between like this, and like that. Now the same square knot, 1 and 2, and cut 5 mil and burn. Okay, so now we have finished the uppers. What we're going to try to do now is to make this a bit smoother with the hammer, and then finish the last stitch here, and then we will be ready to wear it. If you have, for example, a wooden piece like this that is round, you can try to put it here. One is to stretch the leather, as you see, and the other one is with the aid of a hammer, very smooth hammer, you can tap the stitches and the corners, so it makes it a bit more even. Yeah, this is in case you don't have the shoe last, and thinking of any tools that you have around at home. Your feet then will mold to the leather, and everything will get smoother with time. This is just an aid. As you see, just by flattening all the seams, all the creases, it makes it a bit more smooth. Okay. That. So this is how it looks after hammering. Yeah. So now we're gonna stitch this heel. On the instructions, you need a 35 centimeters long thread. Where do we have the thread? This is about right. Okay, perfect. And basically, we want to make this shape. It's like a sand clock. And the way to do it is to start by going like this. Yeah, we're gonna go across here. This is with one needle, and the stitch is the running stitch, so it's very, very basic. Then you go down and one stitch and go out here. Then you go across again through, up here, and leaving this on the side and going through here. Now we apply a bit of tension, and now we go across like this, up again on the same hole here, and across, and finally we go up and we get out in between the leathers, and we will meet the beginning. And here we're gonna do square knot by going from the outside and again on the other side. And then from here we do snip and burn like this. And then, for example, with the ample, we can flatten the seam like this, and this is how it would look. Now we're gonna fold this bit and make all the holes to coincide with the other ones, so it would look something like this. Yeah. Okay. And here we can also tap on the corner of the table or on an anvil or on any flat, smooth surface very gently all the edges. Yeah. And we are almost there. Now we're gonna get the laces to provide you, and I always start from the back just like this. And then in and out. And here, put it this way. Okay. Same the other side. And here we go. Do nice square knot as well. There you go. Barefoot, completely flexible, cut by hand and made in England.